Appreciate you for downloading the latest edition of Corners of the Culture. Appreciate those watching over on youtube.com/ESPN 1320 as well. I'm Damie Barling, D-Lo, along with my man Kenny Caraway, KC.
Yeah.
And the dope ones. Don is dope. What's good, baby?
Peace. What's good, my brothers?
Yes,
How y'all
indeed.
feeling today?
Oh, good. Man. I can't call it, baby. I'm ready. It's getting warmer out here.
Yeah, man.
I'm on that summer temp, baby. I like it hot, like Marlon said. Make it hot.
We appreciate
hot summer.
We appreciate I was listening to Meg on the way in. Appreciate everybody for downloading, subscribing, and checking back with us each Thursday. We hope you're having as much fun listening to this podcast as we are doing it. Though today's episode doesn't really bring up a lot of fun, brings up a lot of history, and it's hip hop and its relation and its form of expression against police brutality. And there's so many different elements. There's songs, there's albums that you could discuss. But I feel, fellas, this characteristic of using music to express the plight that Black people have against white supremacy, police, goes back for as long as music has existed. You could go back to blues records. I came across one called the Joe Turner Blues. That it's a blues record dated back to like the 1800s that talks about police brutality, that talks about the slave patrol, right? And then you can get into Nina Simone, you could get into Marvin Gaye, you get into the 50s, 60s, 70s, what's going on, inner city blues, things like that. And music has long been a form of expression in this regard.
100%, Damien. And where we talk about, the genre that we love so much, this hip hop music of ours, one could say that it was born out of the oppression of Black and brown people, particularly when it comes to what you just said, white supremacy, within systemic racism and police brutality. So for music to be sort of an audio, it documents the brutality of the powers that be. Hip hop was like the bastard child of that, and that's all it has done from the message, on. So I think it's a loaded topic today, but it's something that I'm definitely passionate about. I think we all are, and I think it's something that, as much as it has been documented, it still hasn't been dealt with. It just hasn't been. We're still dealing with the same things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean it's ingrained in the culture. Unfortunately, it's a story as old as time. Unfortunately for Black people in this country. And when we talk about police brutality, we got to talk about the people who are making the laws and what the laws are designed to do. Before there was hip hop music or anything, there were laws put in place to oppress Black people, 100%. To keep them down, right? So the law is there. Then you got to talk about, well, who's enforcing the law? It's the police department.
And the way they're
enforcing it. Using force, using excessive force. And that's something that, I'm not sitting here calling policemen slave owners, but this is something that goes back to slavery.
For sure.
You got rules. They're using Black people in their community or wherever as examples, as what happens when you step out of line. And those are the same things that we see with police officers to Black people all across this country and have been seeing. Like I said, it's the same story, different uniforms, different type of characters, but it's the same story as slavery to a certain degree.
You brought up, Donnie, the message. And I feel like it's important, when we talk about this journey, which we have, when we talk about the journey as we celebrate the 50 years of hip hop, we've documented on past episodes, particularly the inaugural episode of this show, where hip hop started as it was a form of partying, right? It was an expression that was used at parties. It was clubs, it was house parties, it was street corners, it was all of that. It weren't records, it was none of that. Then of course the Sugar Hill Gang and rappers alike dropped, and whether or not that's the first record to drop, the first hip hop record to drop, it was certainly the biggest.
Yeah.
But it still maintained that party vibe, right? It was using chic. It was Good Times, Good Times. That was a disco record. That's what it was. And then in 1982, that same Sugar Hill Records dropped The Message, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And that's arguably the first, I don't even know that it's arguably, I think it is the first socially conscious record. And while it doesn't necessarily zero in exclusively on police brutality, it was the first time, at least in a major way, that hip hop was used as a way to express the plight of the streets. Like we talked about we've talked about the blues and Marvin Gaye and Nina Simone talking about black people versus white supremacy or black people versus the police. This was the real first use of hip hop as an expression for, these are the streets. And this is where this art form was born. Like we could party, we could talk about hip hop you don't stop. But let me tell you what it's really about. And that's what The Message was.
Yeah, no, it absolutely was. And that sort of honest representation of what it was like to be in the Bronx, in the economically deprived and, socially downtrodden time. That's what hip hop was born out of. So naturally it has reported on, as much as it is about partying and the vibes and everything, the best art reflects the truth about life. And the reason why hip hop to me is the most important genre is because it's exposed the ugly truths about life, especially black life, brown life, life in inner city, ghettos, projects all over the country. And we've seen not subtle sort of reporting on it. It's been very, direct, in your face, brash, as it should be, because these are real conditions that the other side have no idea about. So when you talk about arguably the most blatant form of reporting on police brutality, which is Fuck the Police by NWA, that's the pinnacle, but that also sort of opened the floodgates, I think, for artists to be more honest about exactly what's happening, and this is, mind you, how many years before Rodney King? That was 88. Rodney King happened in 92. You know what I mean? And it's like, damn, I can remember being younger and thinking, I know police forces in major cities, they all have their level of corruption and brutality. But why is it that LAPD gets, you know what I mean? Why are they so vicious, right? And I honestly, I never did any research. I was just always curious as to why, it's LA, it's Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. Why is this police force so shitty on top of just policing in America already being shitty? It wasn't until I saw the Made in America documentary about OJ.
Phenomenal.
And that documentary put in full scope how and why the LAPD is the way it is, starting from the Great Migration, when Black people in the South migrated in droves to different parts of the country, namely Southern California. And so the police chief at the time, to deal with these monkeys, as he referred to them, he went and recruited cops from the South to police these Black people. And it set a precedent, right? And so you go from that all the way up to Fuck the Police, again, before Rodney King, and it's like almost prophetic, but it's just the honest, brutal truth about how these cops are abusing their power and still treating us like slaves, pretty much, in the streets.
Yeah, no, that doc. I thought I was done with OJ before that came out. I was like, I hadn't seen enough of OJ. I don't need to see another one. I was so glad I changed my mind on that one. That told a story.
Oh man,
unlike any other story I've saw. And talking about OJ a little bit, but it goes into the same thing. It was what would you say, probably 25-year crescendo to that OJ
For
moment,
sure.
right? There were so many things
Yeah.
that had gone on 20, 15, 10 years before OJ that had nothing to do with OJ, but end up having everything to do with OJ and the way people perceived what the police were doing and what they were doing. And these were things that, NWA was telling us about. We saw with Rodney King and nothing happened. We saw with the LA riots and nothing happened. And they were happening 10 years before that, 15 years before that.
Absolutely.
And to get it back to hip hop, these things are being reported on, as NWO would say. I'm reporting what's going on in my community. The 10 o'clock news ain't doing it, and if they are doing it, they're talking about it in a different way than what's really going on.
From a totally different perspective.
Yeah, I'm reporting on what is going on in my world. You talked about the message, and you talked about NWA. That's essentially what was going on. They were reporting live from their neighborhoods and their lifestyle. And, everybody looked at, the police. Oh, it's the police, they're here to save the day. And, I know plenty of policemen. I'm not disrespecting them, but they're so brave and all this other stuff. Yeah, but there's some that are beating our ass on a nightly basis, like beating our ass.
Yeah, and get off on that
and getting all and having a good old time with it.
Yeah.
Somebody told me a long time ago, the job of the police is to uphold the law. You see somebody breaking the law, you arrest them, you bring them in, you do what you have to do. The job of the police is not to beat your ass. That's not their job. Their job is to arrest you,
right?
Not take you to the back, rough you up, give you all this other stuff. And that's if you're actually doing something bad. Exactly. There was police brutality for people who weren't even breaking the law.
Innocent.
Yeah. And those were the things that were being talked about only by the hip hop artists, really.
It's interesting to think that 1988, give or take 35 years ago, is when Fuck the Police dropped, right? So you go back 35 years from that, talking about 1953, go 1953 into the 60s, and you're talking lynchings, right? You're talking crosses burning, you're talking very open racism. You're damn near still talking slave patrol to a certain degree with police officers, right? Now, fast forward 35 years, you get Fuck the Police. Fast forward 35 years from that, which is today. Fuck the Police is still one of the most relevant hip hop records ever made. It's a record that plays today that sounds exactly the same, where the message is exactly the same in 2023 as it was in 1988. And people like to talk about the growth of this country and, oh, it's so much better than it used to be. And okay, yeah, barring a few examples, yeah, maybe brothers aren't hanging from trees no more. But again, I said barring a few examples, but there has been no movement in the police brutality portion of this conversation in the last 35 years. Yeah. That's minimum 35 years. Really, we're talking ever. There has been no movement in this issue ever.
No. But 20 just happened. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I can probably find something a month ago that just
you can find something a week ago.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. Yeah, and it's like that's why we've come so far, motherfucker. No, we haven't.
No, we have not.
We have not. Play that. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. Play every lyric. Just read every lyric. It's like, yeah, that works. That works in 2023.
Could have came out
just
yesterday.
Like it did in 88.
It could have came out when George Floyd was killed. You know, they sure enough played it at every
They dropped the YG record.
The YG one. Yeah.
YG did it.
You know what's also crazy? I think about in the relationship to hip hop and police brutality and the way they say it, like fuck the police. It's not like this is wrong. It's like, no, fuck the police. Right? I think about Barry Bonds. And Barry Bonds was not nice to the media. He's just a jackass to the media, right? He didn't like them. They didn't like him, right? And I remember he or a lot of people speculate. I don't know if he actually said this, but one of the reasons why he was always like that
Mm-hmm.
is he was the son of Bobby Bonds, who played for the San Francisco Giants, a couple other teams. And I guess he had some issues with alcohol, and the media didn't let up on him. They were on Bobby Bonds' ass. So his son saw this growing up, saw what this media did to him, and was like, I don't fuck with them.
He resented him.
Like,
for
I
it.
don't fuck with you guys. Period.
Yeah.
I saw what you did to my dad. I don't like you guys. We're cool. Coming around on this whole analogy, the NWAs, the Tupacs, they were kids of the Black Panthers. They saw what the police did to the Black Panthers. They saw what they did to them.
Absolutely.
And we saw it in the Dear Mama documentary. It was ingrained in them. Nah, fuck you guys, bro.
I mean, they saw what they were doing to them in their own communities.
Yeah.
You know, right outside their doorstep. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Like, nah, I don't rock with you guys. Like, so it wasn't just this is wrong. It was fuck the police.
Right.
Right? Like, it was no, not only you still do. I saw what you did to my uncle. I saw what you did to my godfather. I don't rock with you. You're not cool. You're
Right.
not okay. And I think that's where the venom also stems from. It's not
Right.
only what they did to them personally and their peers around them, but what they did to the generation before. And they're probably like, if we don't like fight back, they're gonna do the same thing to us,
That's a
which
fact.
they're
They're still
to.
doing. And to your point, Damien, about there not being any real reform, any real change, any real progress in terms of the police treatment, you know, of Black and brown people. You know, there is a power structure that exists in this country that still holds the reins and is not going to tolerate dissension. They're not going to tolerate anybody really going against the grain. I mean, if you think about everyone who has challenged the system, think about how they ended up. Think about the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Black Panthers. Shit, you could
Tupac
You
Shakur.
know what I'm saying? Think about how that ends. But hip hop as a genre, they haven't been able to shut us up. They haven't been able to shut it down. They haven't been able to contain it. And even though the problem still exists, we're still gonna put the mirror up and expose you.
Yeah.
We're still, and you know, I think about how brilliant a song like All Right by Kendrick Lamar is. Song and video. You know what I mean? Like that, unfortunately, is still very needed in a time when a police force, the NYPD, could put together a hip hop task force just to keep tabs on rappers and wonder why we saying fuck the police. You know, it's like we're saying it because we're the ones being victimized.
Well, you brought up, you know, Dr. King, and you brought up Malcolm X, and an individual is easy to eliminate, but a genre is not.
They tried though.
They tried. Yeah, they
definitely
tried. They tried. There's, you could make the argument. Talk about recent news. They're still trying.
Absolutely.
And it's not working, right? Like it hasn't worked. But you can pick off individuals, but you can't pick off an entire genre.
But then you think about how they dismantled the Panthers, right? But an organization like the Klan is still very active in 2023. You know, they have effectively cut off,
because the people who were dismantling the Panthers are in the Klan.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, I worry about, I don't like the word conscious. I think the word conscious becomes like a subcategory. You can be a thinker and speak truth to power in your music and not be quote unquote conscious, right? And I only say that because it shouldn't be a subcategory. When you talk about the genre as a whole, like I feel like everybody with a platform who comes from a oppressed place, they don't have to say anything, but your voice, you know, like for example, when Lil Baby did the song in response to Black Lives, not in response, but supporting
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter,
Right,
like
right.
standing behind it. Whereas somebody like Young Thug was like, "Oh, I ain't worried about no Black Lives Matter. We getting money over here." Blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm worried that as the success and as hip hop gets to new heights, the youth get further and further away of speaking truth to power. You know, because if Pac was an example to anybody, you can be the biggest, but still be quote unquote conscious and speak real genuine truth to what's happening in our neighborhoods, as opposed to just it's about getting money, it's about, you know what I mean, partying, it's about fucking getting high. And now I'm worried that as these newer rappers, I don't hear as much, like, I don't even want to say depth, I just don't hear as much truth in their shit, you know what I'm saying? And that bothers me. But still there's still those artists who do that, and there will continue to be, hopefully.
Well, so I was just going to ask you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nah,
you, but I
nah.
was just going to ask you: is there anybody doing that today? And like I said, there's a 23-year-old rapper somewhere who's rapping about all the truths. We get that, but like who Pac was to us, Pac was a megastar in hip hop. Are there any megastars in hip hop today that has the ear of the youth? I
To
know
Pimp
we'll
a
talk
Butterfly.
about
Kendrick.
Does Kendrick have the ear of an 18-year-old right now?
Oh, I'd be surprised if he didn't. Like, To Pimp a Butterfly, you know, I'm going to take what you just said and ruin it. It's one of the most socially conscious records I think ever written.
I'm not.
No,
I'm
I
not
agree
disputing that.
100%.
Does he have the ear of an 18-year-old right now? The way Baby does.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, like
Like,
newer
he's
rappers.
doing
Like Kendrick definitely does.
But Baby and Kodak have the ear
exactly.
of
NBA
18-year-old
Youngboy ain't doing that shit.
No, them dudes aren't doing it.
So
I'd
that's what
argue.
I'm saying.
I'd argue Kendrick does, but them dudes ain't.
No, and they're the new leaders, though. That's the thing. Like, they are the new leaders. We don't want to really admit, because I'm listening to what my son, I'm sure you listening to what your son likes, and I don't hear anything of any real substance.
Yeah, but to be fair, no, you're 100% right. But Reese is how old? 11?
10.
And how old's your oldest?
9.
Yeah, we're not talking 18-year-olds here.
But what were we listening to at 10?
Exactly. We were listening to Pac.
Well,
Big. We were listening to the biggest.
You know what I
who were the
mean?
leaders. That's where it starts.
Right.
That's where it starts at that age.
Okay, motherfucker, I was listening to MC Hammer.
Me too.
Like,
Me
I mean,
too.
I
listening to
like,
Hammer,
but you were listening to
Keep Your
Pac
Head
too,
Up
though,
was
right?
made. Keep Your Head Up was
Exactly.
in rotation.
There's
we knew
nothing
that
like
song.
that right now. There was All Right, and there was
Baby
The Pimp a Butterfly.
Baby
Baby
tried
did
it,
try, and he got backlash for it
and
too.
he's doing a little bit of it. He's still
doing
a
some?
little bit of, like, if you listen to Baby, he's on some bullshit sometimes, but sometimes he be spitting some real shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, he's the only one I could think of, though.
Yeah, I don't know of any other than.
And maybe, and like, I look, I don't want to be completely unfair to them because I don't listen to all of their projects, right? So maybe there's stuff on their album where they are talking just real talk, like, Kodak, or, so maybe they are. I don't want to be unfair to them. Dirk just came out with something that sounded a little different, maybe something that we're looking for a little bit, but I'm trying to figure out who that guy
was
is
one
right now.
Like, I listened to Dirk's album. It was actually, I thought it was cool.
All My Life.
Yeah, but that was the record. Yeah, that's the one. As soon as you hear that, like, okay, that's probably a radio record.
Right.
It's got that Nas, I know I can. It's got that feel to it.
Right.
But that's one of
that's what we're looking
16
for.
songs or whatever.
And the reason I even bring it up is because, like you said, the issue is just as relevant. And yeah, we can listen to NWA still, and we can listen to all those records that came out, but is it reaching the new leaders of today through these young artists? Like, is To Pimp a Butterfly? I mean, for us, we put it on, it's in the upper echelon of rap records, especially when you talk about speaking on truth to power. But yeah, I can't point to any one or two artists who I feel like represent that even a little bit. And that's troubling, because it's like hip hop has been the only consistent means of really exposing this. And it's an epidemic. Systemic racism, white supremacy through police brutality is an epidemic. It's the leading cause of death for Black youth. Being killed by the cops. That's a real thing. So why aren't more artists talking about this shit? That's troubling to me.
Because it don't sell records.
Exactly. And that's
unless you're flawless at it, which is what Pac was, and Pac sprinkled in, what's your phone number or how do you want it? Like I get around. Like
they say he put the medicine in the ice cream or something.
That's a
Kendrick, I feel like he did that too. He found that formula too. He could be pop and commercial and still slide in the message underneath it, Like think even a song like Cole too. And I feel like Cole doesn't get enough credit. It's weird with Cole. I'm such a big J. Cole fan, but a lot of people be hating on Cole, I think somebody like him, he's never had like just unanimous, like just love, it's always been kind of like, split.
Yeah. The thing
he's
I
compared
like about,
to Kendrick.
The thing I like about Cole too. And I'm not saying it as Kendrick doesn't. I don't know if he does or not, but Cole seems to reach out to these younger dudes.
Oh yeah,
he Cole was in the streets.
He definitely
in 2020. Cole was in the streets.
Cole was in Ferguson after Mike Brown got killed.
But even the hip hop younger dudes.
No, for sure. He didn't reach that. Yo, Kodak
when 21 was going through. He's
21 Savage.
You mentioned my song. I just did a song with 21. You know what I'm saying? I did a song with Kodak. Like he reached out to him maybe to be the big homie,
right?
And say, hey, like you have a responsibility. You got, maybe you can sprinkle this in there. Maybe I don't know what he's doing, but he seems to be the guy who reaches out to these guys.
I mean, definitely. And so you talk about who has the ear to the streets, and this might be a hot take, but I mean, it's no question. We know who really got the ear of the streets right now, who's considered the king of rap right now, active, and that's Drake. Do you think we will ever hear a Drake song that even makes a mention of police brutality? Has there ever been? I mean, I ain't the biggest Drake fan, but I ain't never heard no song of him talking about this shit. And he's somebody who, if he said one thing, it would permeate and reach so many people.
So I'll to answer your question, no. And then not that it matters,
right?
It shouldn't matter, but as Drake ever experienced that type of lifestyle? I know it gets wild in Toronto. Like it's wild,
but I don't think that's where
that's not what I'm saying.
I don't think that's where he's from.
It's like he has the biggest platform, and he knows what is taking place, and he's. I mean, I don't know. I know I'm gonna sound like a hater if I say this, but to me, in a way, Drake sometimes appropriates the culture in a way.
Drake.
You know what I mean? Like, and that might be a hot take, but that's how I feel sometimes.
This isn't. Drake makes songs for white women.
Yeah, exactly. And
like not every record. Like Drake can go. Like I'm not questioning. Like Drake can go.
Spit.
But when you get a Drake album, like there's gonna be like 5 or 6 records that are gonna hit the radio. They're gonna hit streaming platforms that are gonna hit clubs, and the target is white women. Like they're records that make like black women is going to support them, but they're records that white women will feel comfortable singing.
Right. Because he knows that's where the biggest success lies. Those are his biggest supporters, and they're going to buy the most.
And it's worked.
It's absolutely worked. And I shouldn't expect him to do it. But from a personal standpoint, I can't really say I'm a Drake fan because I don't think he's ever used his platform for anything of any substance.
So let me ask you this. This almost reminds me a little bit of like Michael Jordan. Just because you're good at something, should you have to do certain things?
That's what I just said. You shouldn't. You're not obligated to do anything. Now, in the case of Michael Jordan, I would argue that behind the scenes, Mike did things. He empowered people. He might not have spoke out about police brutality and Republicans.
Drake might too, though.
Drake might too. I'm not privy to it, but he absolutely might. But I just mean in the sense, I don't think it's fair to compare Michael Jordan being outspoken about socially conscious things, because basketball until this era, till Black Lives Matter, has never been a means to speak out about social injustice. But hip-hop historically has since its inception. And the biggest rappers, even Hove, I mean, in 99 Problems, he kind of talked about being harassed by police.
So
and
I was thinking about how long did it take Jay to do that?
Right. It took him a minute, but at least he's got something. He's
Yeah.
got something in the catalog. He's mentioned it. He sprinkled it.
Yeah.
You know, $500,000 for Bill because I'm African. You know what I mean? Like he's talked about it at least. I mean, I again, I'm not expecting it from anybody, but it would be great.
I wish
if
he
someone
would. I
of
wish
that
he,
stature,
I-
you know what I'm saying, would
yeah.
just, you know,
I wish he would.
yeah.
I wish he would. I just, much like you, I don't see it in him.
Nah.
Like, I
But
don't- I
why
don't think
do
he's-
you wish that Jay would like now?
No, I
Like,
said-
No.
I'm talking about
He's talking
Drake.
about Drake now.
oh,
I wish
Yeah.
Drake. I wish Drake.
Hope
would.
don't gotta do nothing.
well, even Drake, because Drake's in the same cat. Like, what's Drake actually gonna say about police brutality?
That's the
Like,
thing.
'cause when I thought you it was like Jay's a 50-year-old billionaire. What the fuck's he gonna say
Nah.
compared to a 19-year-old Ice Cube and a 20-something-year-old Tupac?
He can still speak on it though. He can still say, "I'm not dealing with."
I'm
it
not saying
myself."
he can't, but how does it resonate? Like fuck the police resonates because I think everybody who knows that record. Now I don't know how if you went home and you said, Reese, I need you to hear this record. I don't know how he'd respond to it. But the people who know the record and know Ice Cube and what Ice Cube was versus what Ice Cube is and the history of that song, I think that type of verbiage resonates more from someone who you absolutely believe went through that versus a 50-year-old Jay-Z or a billion times platinum Drake, talking about it now because we hit an era of Black Lives Matter and we've got to put our stamp on it.
Yeah.
But don't we need that too? Not saying you're saying we don't, but it can't just be the people who are going through it. That's what we always ask for, right?
Right.
Like, even though you're not going through it, I need you to be my ally.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And he does have a platform. So I don't know if this really relates, but once upon a time when Quincy Jones gave the script to Color Purple to Steven Spielberg was like, well, I didn't go through this. This is not my story. He's like, well, you didn't go to space to make E.T. You're a great director with a great platform and you could make this a great movie. So Drake got homies probably who go through it. Why not speak on what they go through? You know
even
what I
if
mean?
you don't have homies, like
even if you don't,
got
you know what's going on.
You're in the culture.
Yeah.
You're in this genre. And the people that help you be who you are going through this.
For sure.
At least even your peers, your other rappers, your peers. Tell them, hey man, I ain't go through it, but I'm here to support.
Exactly.
I'm here to support any way that I can. And if me calling out a police chief or calling a police department on a record helps you or helps bring awareness, helps those white women understand that, damn, even Drake is talking about it now too. Maybe.
Well, but in the flip side to that is you lose those white women. Oh fuck! Oh, here he goes. Not listening to this anymore. Like that's and again, I get it. Like it's a fine line to walk when you're that successful, right? And Jay has hit the Jay and Beyonce have hit the fuck everyone category. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna make records the way that I want. I'm gonna make records that sound the way that I want. I'm gonna do everything the way that I want. I feel like Drake is there. Maybe Drake doesn't, but I feel like Drake is there, and Drake could make an impactful record or song if done right. I just don't think it hits the same as pulling up Strictly for My Niggas by Pac and from 92.
I don't think it
93
I honestly don't think there's any way he could do a song. All I'm looking for is a bar. Like, I don't even feel like he's dropped a bar about it. That's really where I'm at. Even just a little anecdotal thing in a song, because you're right. I mean, he does risk losing an audience or a faction of his audience if he tries to go full fuck the police, right? I don't think I mean, it really speaks to a larger thing about what's selling and what's not selling. That's really what it is, because a large part of Drake's success is the fact that he can take what's popular and take it up a notch. But usually what's popular ain't really speaking, at least not in the past 10 years. It's not really speaking truth to power. So like even Kanye, like even Kanye was on some commercially conscious or commercially intellectual shit when he first came out. I mean, he sprinkled it throughout his career. it just seems like the more popular rap music of today is so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It just seems like it's just so one-track minded now. And I think it would behoove a lot of these artists to be more well-rounded as a means to just use your platform for something greater than enriching yourself.
I mean, and I agree 100%. Like, I don't necessarily know how these things work, but I mean, is Keep Your Head Up getting played on the radio today?
I mean, yeah,
It should, but is it though?
Yeah,
like if Keep Your Head Up is on Tupac's album,
It will
I don't
soon.
know if it's.
It will soon.
I don't know, but I'm just saying in 2023 because, like I said, their baby song didn't even get played on the radio.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing too. Radio is not just the way to consume music.
That's
now.
true. That's true.
There are so many ways to consume music. And that's the beauty of music today in general, is that you don't have to go through just one or two channels to get the music that you want. It's out there. There's conscious rappers out there. They ain't, the most popular. They ain't selling out arenas around the country, but they are out there.
That's the low key, other thing that you have to talk about too is, and I think you were kind of alluding to this earlier, like, you talk about conscious rap. One of the first person I think of, like, Common. Common's super successful. I think Common's won a Grammy, or Grammys plural. Like,
definitely,
Common's that dude. But when you look at like Common versus Drake, right, or Common versus a more commercial hip hop, you look at Mos Def. That's what you're talking about, right? I know people don't like to acknowledge this because the timing is everything. Public Enemy wasn't the greatest selling group that hip hop has seen. They were a perfect, Fuck the Police was 88, Fight the Power was 89.
Yeah.
So A Nation of Millions, like, that hit.
Yeah.
But that was kind of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that's people don't want to think too much. Like, I think that's one of the knocks on Cole. When you listen to Cole, like, hold up, what did J. Cole just say?
Right.
And you're running that back, like, and you're kind of like, you're like, oh man, he got bars, he got flow, and then you recognize, hold up, what did he just say? And you're kind of running that back. It's I think it's why Cole gets slighted a lot. And to use what you said earlier about Pac, about Kendrick, not everybody knows how to put the medicine in the ice cream.
Yeah.
And
sometimes they just serving you up Robitussin, and it's like, drink it.
Right.
Some Tylenol, take it.
Right.
And you talk about Common, and I mean, the conundrum of a hip hop artist was never put more perfectly than when Jay said, truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I made $5 million. I ain't been rhyming like common sense. Like, that's like these guys may want to, be that type of rapper, but that check comes in from, Uchiwali or Big Pimpin' or something like that. Like, damn, like, how do I, like,
no, it's a fact.
Big Jay says that on a track. I can't remember what song it is.
He said it on Moment of Clarity. That's what he said. He said, truthfully, I want to rhyme like common sense.
No, not that line. No. He said something about, like, God, I can't remember what song it was, but he points out, like, yo, I made a record about Big Pimpin', and it sold 10 million. I made a record about, fighting in these streets, and y'all went quiet, or something. It's something along those lines, and it's gonna bug me now. You've ruined my whole fucking day. I'm gonna go through every Jay-Z song on my playlist, because I know it's on my playlist, to figure out what song that is. But he says exactly what you just said. Is these goofy ass records I make that are about Big Pimpin' or about whatever, y'all buy that shit up.
And,
well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Katie.
No, I was just gonna say, and it's hard for me to tell somebody legally not to go get some money.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I would want Drake and just name an artist. I would want you to make a song or album, talking about stuff that really matters, in my opinion. But if that's gonna net you 1.5 million, and you can get all the hottest features and artists and producers, and that's going to get you 8 million. It's hard for me to be like, nah, man, don't get that 8 million. I need you to do this. It's just being fair, because that's a tough decision to make.
And that's what the goal is for so many of these artists, is to get up out of this situation, get paid, get on, and, you know, get that bag, secure that bag, right? And even if it means, you know, I think even, okay, so I was thinking about this too. I think when Drake was a mixtape artist, when he first started, he was more aligned with like the more conscious, lyrical, you know what I'm saying? But when he got with Young Money, he sort of acquiesced to their style, and that's when he blew up. So right. And then Damien, you said something that really resonated with me. So long time ago, I used to date a girl who was fresh out of med school. Long time ago. I used to date a girl. She was straight out of med school. So I was living in DC. And, you know, you just assume somebody who's going to school for their PhD was just an intellectual and she loves everything intellectual. But I'm like, yo, why is it every time I get in your car, you playing the most ignorant shit that's out? Like, what's good? Like, you know what I mean? Are you friend? It's like, no, I just need something to escape to, you know? And that escapism, what you said, people just don't want to think. Like lyricism is being shunned now because so many people just want some shit they can fucking just,
they want to put it on Instagram or make a TikTok video with it.
Exactly. Do you guys think that, and not to say that, you know, people in the past, obviously, are, you know, parents and grandparents, they all went through a whole lot of shit. But do you feel like shit is so hard today that escapism is more needed, right? Like with social media.
I'd argue escapism is impossible.
Well, the search for it, the quest for it, because like you can't get away from it. Well, you can if you like make an effort. It's harder. You got to make an effort to get away from it. But you know, some crazy shit happens around your block. Damn, that's crazy. You get on Instagram and you see another crazy video. It's like, damn.
And you know what kills me now?
Search and rescue.
Yeah, you know,
for real.
You know what kills me now in 2023 is like movies, documentary stuff will come out, and you'll see that it's made in 2020. You'll see like in episodes, people are wearing masks, and they'll give like various stories. I hate that. Like, I absolutely hate it. It's like, I don't want to be reminded of this. Like, I don't want to be reminded of that time.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking, you know, now, like, having dealt with the pandemic and gone through that and just everything else that we've seen, you know, increase in mass shootings, and with, I think we're living in an information age right now. And I don't necessarily think there has ever been a time where people didn't deal with shit or want to escape. I just think we're being thrown so much shit at once that it feels more overwhelming than ever, because we are witnessing and we are privy to shit that's happening in every corner of the world. We can see fucking Jocelyn Hernandez fighting everybody backstage while John Gotti III and Floyd are having a melee after the fight. Like, it's just like everything is chaos, it feels like. You know what I'm saying? So I get it.
So when I turn on Blackish, I don't want to see Andre and Rainbow break up. Like, y'all motherfuckers better be happy.
That was so.
Yeah, I am not watching this shit. Y'all better be happy.
That was Kenya Barrett. He did that in real life, right?
He did, and I skipped those 4 episodes every time I watch Blackish.
I was like, they really, and they like,
I ain't watching this.
Went for weeks. I was like, yo, you guys aren't back together. Yo, what the hell's going on?
And it took Rainbow's dad to die. Like, y'all, I'm going to the next season.
For real.
To your point, though, real quick before we get out of here, the thing that I notice that bothers me, and my mom watches, and I think this is to like what you're talking about. My mom watches a lot of MSNBC, CNN, all this other stuff, right? And every show, every segment on the bottom line, breaking, shit that's not even breaking news. Like, it's breaking. Election is still scheduled for 2 years from now.
Right.
That's not break, but they're like amping everything up. Like, yo, this this is big, this is break. No, everything's not fucking breaking. Like, it bothers me.
We live in an
It
alarmist
really
culture
bothers
right
me.
now.
Mhm.
That's exactly the news perpetuates that shit.
Right.
You know, and everything with the political divides and the rise of Trump and MAGA, like everything, you know, everything is just alarmist. So yeah, my mom, my aunts, my girls, everyone is just heightened and just filled with fear and anxiety. And that just permeates, you know, and I don't watch the news at all for that very reason, but you still see it. You can't escape it. So you're trying to escape that culture, right? And then you don't want to listen to music that's supposed to take you out of that mood and have you thinking about even more shit, you know what I'm saying? But then the problems persist.
Right.
So where do we find like some resolve?
Two quick things. Want to make sure we acknowledge KRS-One, Queen Latifah, Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, like their contributions to this form of hip hop. And I think to bring this conversation full circle, perhaps after, you know, talking for 45 minutes, the most frustrating thing I can point out is the same way we started the show. Fuck the police shouldn't be as relevant today as it was 35 years ago.
No, it should not.
That's a problem. That is a huge, huge problem.
Yep.
We appreciate you for listening so much. Download, subscribe, share with your friends, share on Twitter, share on Instagram. Check out Don's amazing videos that he puts together, his amazing reels that he puts together here for this podcast. Make sure you're following the Dope Ones on Twitter.
I'm gonna try to do more too. I've been slacking because I got other shit that I've been doing. I'm gonna try to get
you're doing plenty.
What we have done right here, man. Shout out. You did this stuff for the Netflix one. I saw that you tweeted out this morning, man. I saw that.
Tyrone.
Yeah, I saw
I didn't
that
do
separately.
the ones. I didn't do the ones that my stuff actually didn't get picked. Like they liked it, but they didn't actually pick. Like I got to do stuff for it though, and I'm blessed to be able to do it. But I didn't get picked for it. But thank you though.
That looked like a dope
Appreciate
joint
it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, check out all of Don's amazing work across his different IG platforms. Make sure you're following at IamKDiddy, at Damian Barling. Make sure you're subscribing, rating, and reviewing, and make sure that you're back here next Thursday on Corners of the Culture.
Peace.